This may be my very last cup of coffee. So you know I lost 140 pounds. You've got to give up a lot of things to lose 140 pounds. And in these 6 years of maintenance and leading the community of Eat Like a Bear, we talk a lot about giving things up. And it's interesting to me as I give up this coffee, the parallels and the many things we can learn from me giving up coffee. This is interesting. So for 6 months ago especially, I was drinking way too much coffee. I have no idea how much. I didn't count. Does that sound like weight loss when you don't even weigh because you don't want to know? I knew it was too much. And people do say coffee's healthy or whatever, but I knew for me it was way too much. Frankly, I expect for any human being, the amount I was drinking was way too much. And so with cardiac issues in my family or whatever else, I thought, what are you doing? What are you doing? And community members, especially people in the deep den who go to the live videos, know I've been talking about giving up coffee for months and months and months. But I just never really got there until, okay, so I have a circumstance in my life that requires me to go to zero for a time. And so it's an external structure. And we have this with weight loss, if you think about it, when you have an opportunity, like maybe you're gonna go to the wedding 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, and you want to fit into the dress. And so that is an external source of motivation. And if you can lean into that, I mean, you can lose massive amounts of weight. We know that from weight loss. But what we also know is we very likely gain it back. And so with the coffee, I do have this external reason for going to zero, but I am so well aware that if I really want to give it up, I'm going to have to do something a little bit differently. Because over the course of my life with the coffee, I've even joked about this to people. I've said in my entire life, I'm either reducing my coffee or increasing it again. It is the yo-yo coffee drinking. It is just like with weight loss, you're always either losing or you're gaining. So I was always deliberately cutting back, or I was just like in the flow and drinking and drinking. Quite a number of times I've given up coffee completely. Here's how I did it in the past. This is not a bad approach, but I'm doing a little bit differently now. So in the past, I took that common advice, of course, ratcheting down. Because, you know, if you just go cold turkey on coffee, you end up with a massive caffeine headache, especially if you were drinking the volumes that I was drinking. And so just gradually reduce your amount of coffee drinking. And then perhaps replace it. And there are these lovely replacements for coffee out there. There really are, like herbal-based options that kind of give you that experience of a full-bodied cup of coffee. It's not quite, you know, it's not quite. And there's these like mushroom things out now. That's kind of a newer thing. And so those are meant to replace what is in this cup right here. So it's something else that gives you that satisfaction on your palate, that lets you hold that warm cup of something, that keeps that ritual in place for you when you wake up in the morning. And so that is what I did in the past, is reduce the coffee, maybe down to zero, replace it with some lovely alternative, and just have that nice warm thing in my cup. And that would work pretty well until it didn't. Because what would happen is that morning ritual, this cup of coffee, I instead had something else in there, but that was like this close to my habit of coffee drinking. And so I'm out and about in the world or whatever else, I see some coffee. I don't have my mushroom drink, okay? I put some coffee in my cup. And then I'm right back into the coffee drinking. And that is exactly what happens with weight loss too. We kind of ratchet down, we get all strict, we go through the grind, and then that thing happens in life where we do the proverbial filling the cup with the coffee. Of course, it's actually eating a donut or whatever it is. It's eating the pizza again. And then you get back into that groove because you're not doing anything deliberate to keep yourself out of that groove. And so past coffee drinking, I wasn't getting out of the groove. I was having the herbal coffee or whatever it was. And so I knew this time I could get to zero. Oh, it's painful though. Oh my gosh. Because I love coffee. And I considered adding some of those alternatives, but realized that kind of little groove was exactly the bridge back into coffee drinking. And so I've been getting rid of the warm beverages entirely, especially in the morning. Of course, it's summertime here. Check in with me in the winter and see how I'm doing on the warm beverages in the morning. But I completely cut anything that sort of gave the appearance of coffee. Other thing I noticed with this, as I have been mindfully reducing my coffee now for about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, is, you know, I'm going through the process of grief in giving up the coffee, in knowing that I'm getting to zero. But I've really had like this internal negotiation with myself about, is this it? Is this really zero forever? Is that my intention? And I'll tell you, that's a painful question. I don't want to go to zero forever. And we see this in the community with the food choices, people kind of like just still clinging to those foods that they love, which, yeah, we love them because they're delicious. And I love coffee because it's delicious, but it is not good for me right now. And I know, because I love it so much and because I have this very strong habit of coffee drinking, that if I don't have a very clear intention of not only going to zero for the amount of time I need to go to zero, but then also staying at zero. Is that my intention? If it is, I need to make a plan for that. And so going to zero is really not that hard. And it's the equivalent of losing the 20 pounds, losing the 100 pounds, getting to that point. Well, then what? If you don't have the intention to maintain that weight loss, you're not going to maintain it. That's the reality. And I know that with the coffee. If I don't have the intention to stay at zero, I'm not staying at zero. There's no way I'm staying at zero because it's coffee. It's coffee. And it will no sooner come to that end of that little season that I'll just be drinking coffee again, and I will go so quickly back up to that high level of consumption unless I do something really radical about it. And so as I've reflected, the big thing that I've done is I've not replaced this with other similar tasting warm beverages, and I don't intend to do that. So far, I'm having like the cold seltzer drinks in the morning in addition to this 1 cup of coffee. This one last cup of coffee. It's actually cooling down out here. I have to heat it up and have my full experience. I have grieved this, and it's interesting because I gave up drinking as well. In my weight loss phase, I gave up drinking, and I wasn't even sure how I was going to stop drinking. I did go through a little bit of period of grieving in advance, but not completely, because at that time I didn't realize I was going to zero. It was only after the fact that I realized I'm at zero, I'm staying at zero. But with coffee, I see the path, and I see that I'm going to zero. I know that. And I also know how important it is for my health, I feel, to stay at zero. And the only solid way to do that, given my history of the coffee yo-yoing, is to have that intention moving in and making sure I stay out of all the little behaviors that would cause me to pick up another cup of coffee and get started again. So all this, it's my own self-talk. It is setting my intentions. And in fact, it's one reason I'm doing this video, because now we have it here recorded. We have my intention recorded. What a great thing. If you're having problems getting in and setting your intentions or whatever else, maybe you should make a video too. Okay, make a video. But if we don't have a plan for maintenance, we're not going to maintain. I don't mean to speak negative words on somebody's maintenance, but without a plan, I don't know how anybody would maintain, put it that way. Now, in the Deep Den, we talk about a number of these things, like the internal negotiations with the coffee and with whatever else, like the devil on your shoulder, or like telling you drink more of that or eat more of that or whatever it is. The content library has a good collection of stuff on those internal negotiations. And we're also about to double back on maintenance in the Deep Den. And we have this great curriculum called Wrangle the Regain, and it is about losing some weight that maybe you've gained, and in particular, making a plan for maintenance so that if you do gain some back, next time you're going to gain less back. And so we're about to do that in the Deep Den. You should join the Deep Den. For goodness sakes, you guys, you don't have to give up coffee to join the Deep Den. Nope, you sure don't. And you know what? I don't feel like anyone else in the world has to give up coffee. This is just something I know I need to do. I need to do it for my health. I've just felt that. I felt it in here. And I know I have a problem with just keeping it at a little bit of coffee. I've proved that to myself. If at some point I feel like maybe 1 cup is fine and I can keep it at 1 cup, I guess I could bring a cup back. I don't know. I think I need to go to zero. I need to live in zero for a good amount of time before I make my next decision. But all you coffee drinkers out there, you know, God bless you. Enjoy. Enjoy. I will be here without my coffee.